Okay, I'd like to call the Southbury Board of Selectmen regular meeting, June 15th, 2023, to order at 7 p.m. And if I could have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So oddly enough, first up is a presentation by the first selectman, which is me. I have been, oddly enough, working on, in my head and in my idea of more trails. There's grants available for a lot of trails in town. And connecting the community and the trails with the property we have. We recently, was a year or two ago, a couple years ago, we bought the property that connected our Platt Park to a connection, and we purchased it and made that connection. I was also made aware that we talked about the possibility of Heritage Village having walking next to New Wheeler Road and the width of the road and what could be done about it. And so I was thinking about it, and I came up with a concept, and oddly enough, there's been a request from Heritage Village Masters Association that we all have gotten for a trail. So Betsy, if you could put this map up, let me see if I can turn on my, there it is, okay. So let me get my bearings here. Where is, I want to start with New Wheeler Road, Betsy. Okay, thank you. So this is a large part of Heritage Village. This is their downtown area. This is, I don't want to say their downtown, but it's a microcosm of our economic development. And it's been a concern since I first met with the management company at Heritage Village that this area, there's a couple restaurants, and to keep this very viable with the hotel and keep it active and vibrant. So I took a ride up New Wheeler Road, and I looked at both sides of the road. And my concept is that if we move New Wheeler Road as far to the right but with the striping, I'm not talking about physically moving it, I'm talking about moving the striping to the right side. I don't know the exact dimensions, but the concept is to have 10 feet between the edge of the road and a walking, hiking, biking, multi-purpose trail. The idea there is if Heritage Village would make a connection from here to this road inside this area, it would accomplish a couple things. One is giving the people from Heritage Village a place to walk without exposing them to the steepness of these slopes that are in New Wheeler Road that then comes up and goes to East Hill. And then make the experience that if there was plantings on the roadside, the 10-foot would give enough room so that we had a salt shelf that would not damage the shrubs and plantings, but also so the people who are walking or riding bicycles. And if that was to be built up to East Hill, along here, this being Traditions. Now, I can't draw a line down through Traditions property. It's private property. There's a gate for cars. I'm not sure they're offended by walkers or hikers. But this would also give Traditions an access back down to Heritage if they wanted to go down and get something to eat or just exercise. This would be a request an easement of some sort to, because this is Heritage Village, across here to the acreage that we purchased recently. And this is an existing fire road that wouldn't take a lot to do if you've been up there. That would get you across here, and this would get you down to Route 172. From 172, you would go across 172. These are town roads. They're very quiet cul-de-sac roads, nice, trees and stuff. And that would connect with town property, which is Seaman Park, right here to Bent of the River. Of course, I can't draw a line for Bent of the River because that's Bent of the River's domain, that's what they do. But from there, a hiker, a walker can go in, someone can go into the Bent of the River and enjoy the trails over there. From there, you could also go up from East Flat Hill to the general store on the corner, right? And from the general store, Library Road, which is also turns into Floodbridge Road, and this is Platt Park. Platt Park can go up through here, and this is Poverty Road, which is a quiet road that you could, I believe you could ride a bike or you can walk on without feeling intimidated. And that would bring it right back here, Poverty Road, to this area in Heritage Village. Then, from there, let me get my bearings. We also have the one-way road. Poverty Road is here, right? Back that back down, Betsy, down lower. This is Floodbridge Road. So you could, a hiker or a bicyclist can go on Floodbridge Road and come back up Floodbridge Road and go to our downtown through here. Then there's also the connection up here. Betsy, if you can go up on that side. There's also, it wouldn't be too hard of a connection as we look forward. This is Heritage, this is Heritage Road, this is the main road. This is a road that comes up to the one-way bridge. What I am being told, preliminary information I'm getting from the state, if we do a two-way, in order for the state to fund replacement of this, it has to be a two-way bridge. We're not going to be able to build a one-way. But they will incorporate into that bridge what we currently have, which is a walking crossing. There's a separate lane that you can cross. The good thing about that is it will take this road here, which people use to come through. It will quiet this road for the people who live in here. If you remember, there's a sidewalk that goes right up through here. There's a sidewalk. And now, if this is not through traffic, say in here, you can now get across the bridge and up Old Poverty Road. This is the park. This is library, sorry. And you can actually go to the library. That's the concept I came up with. I showed this to Dan Drew and the management team. They've put this out to the people in Heritage Village. I did explain that this concept may require some easements to get far enough away from the road to make it feel like a wooded path instead. So this is what, there's been questions asked about who would pay for this. This is a benefit to the entire town of Southbury from an economic, I feel from an economic development perspective. It's good for the Heritage Village commercial area to keep it viable. I think it's connected to enough of our other homes and areas that they can use it from this side. My vision is that this would be the start of trails. There's a lot more to go further out to do. But it would require, I believe, easements, and it would be it would be up to the village to make that connection from, because that's their property, and that would be a pathway. Whatever that pathway may be, they want to mimic, change, whatever. And I think this would be good for the town, and I think there's grants available for DEP grants, trails grants, connectivity grants. There may be a 20% match required, but honestly, a lot of that is pretty clean area that wouldn't require a lot of excavation to do it. You're not starting out like the one down over in Naugatuck and Waterbury. They have a lot of obstacles along the way. So that's my concept. I'm not looking for a vote. I don't think there's anything to vote on. I just think I'd like to hear the thoughts from the board.
So question, how much of this would be paved and how much would it be rough trail?
I really don't know that just yet, but my feeling is if it stayed on a stone, natural, you know, I always try and find solutions to the cost, and one of which is we mill and pave our roads. Yeah. Or not mill and pave. We have millings, but we also have chip sealing. Yeah. And when we get done with chip sealing, we reuse some of the chips, but some of the chips just can't be reused. So I'm looking to say, we have trails over by Settlers Park that are chipstone. We could start building, we could use chipstone to build it and make it just a natural path. It wouldn't be maintained in the wintertime. You know, snow, there's nobody's, you know, and if it is in the wintertime and there's snow, perhaps you'll get people hiking it, snowshoeing it, or cross-country skiing.
So it's funny, so I grew up in Westchester in Somers, and we had a bike path that connected Yorktown into Somers into Mayapack. And, you know, it was the 1990s, and I would ride my bike to the Rexall store where I had my first job and, you know, worked in the pharmacy. And it was really a game changer for high schoolers to be able to have their first job. And, you know, it's a little scary in the 2020s to think about your kid, you know, heading out to work on their bike. But, you know, at the end of the day, I like the connectivity, particularly for traditions, for the older kids to be able to maybe get places and do things and, you know, open up opportunities that they're out and active. So I think it's a really interesting concept, and I think it's definitely got a lot of potential. I mean, I grew up with that lifestyle, and it'd be nice for other people to have the ability to get around and get to shops and, you know, be a little bit independent.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic. I mean, it was kind of funny. Then I was brought this petition, so I would have, I think they're endorsing this idea. Justin, you have anything?
Yeah, no, obviously, you gave me a little preview of this last week when we were chatting, Jeff, and you know, I think it's a great concept. I think making it easier for folks to get out and walk or bike, what have you, is certainly what the trend is, and it's good for people's health to get the extra exercise, and it is potentially another thing that'll allow our teens to have a little more fun in what is a quiet town. So yeah, I mean, obviously the devil is in the details. We'll see what Heritage Village thinks, but I think it's a very interesting concept. It could be great.
Jeez.
Yeah, I agree with the comments that have been made. I think, and I got a little preview too last week, and I think it's I think it's a great concept. I think it's a good idea. It really brings together different aspects of the town. I think it would be a benefit to the, as you said, to the town as a whole, not just the village area, but certainly for the village as well. So personally, I think it's something worthy of further exploration and developing details, what it might look like, what it might cost, what the particulars might be. But I certainly think it's something we should explore further.
Thank you. John, are you out there?
Yep, sure am. And totally support. Part of what I've done in the past was sketched up some of these ideas and even floated them out there. And as Holly mentioned, I also raised my kids in along the trails in northern Westchester and the trailway up there. Having the ability to have the kids be able to move safely from space to space without worrying about traffic is a home run.
Thank you, John. Okay, so that's my presentation. We'll hear more as we move forward and on what comes about. All right? Next up is public comment.
Mr. Chairman, before we get into public comment, can I make a motion to add to new business the appointment of Azra Schultes as our tax collector?
Can I have a second for that? Any discussion on adding that to the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And it carries. Thank you. Next up at public comment, there's a number of people here. If you care to make a public comment, 2 minutes, if you'd like to come up and make a public comment. Any public comment? Okay. Let me just make sure the mic is on.
Barbara Wheeler, 569 Poverty Road, Heritage Village. I'm endorsing that we move forward. I think this is wonderful. Thank you for looking into it, and the devil's in the details, I understand that, but hopefully it moves along. There will be roadblocks, but we have to go around them. The one thing, Jeff, because I know you're going to do this presentation again, Poverty Road from Main Street South into the village and to the library is very dangerous to walk. I would love to see that improved. It's dangerous to drive because people still walk on it. So good luck. This is a start, and that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Please. You're it. Mr. Kennedy, you are it.
Good evening. My name is Roger Kennedy, 438A Heritage Village. I think this is a wonderful concept. I've been walking New Wheeler Road all the time, training for a road race, and there's a lot of fast cars in there. My neighbors and I, because I've talked to a few of them, one of them being Jerry Leventhal, who's the president of Heritage Village, is recovering from surgery and doing quite well, fully endorses this. I'd like to thank the Selectmen and his team for their thoughtful approach on this and helping transform Southbury each year. And I also think it's great to see Heritage Village leadership and the Selectmen's office working collaboratively to move Southbury ahead for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Is there? Thank you. You just, you. Thank you for coming and supporting. Okay, we'll move on from public comment. You have your announcements and correspondence. You have your reports in front of you. I move to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve? So moved. Justin seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? It carries. Minutes of June 1st, 2023 regular meeting.
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Justin. Second. Thank you, Jason. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes of June 1st, 2023, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And it carries. Bids and procurement, transfer station hauling services. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution? A second, please. Okay. Any further discussion on the transfer station hauling services? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Video detection services. This is, just have to remind everybody, this is for the traffic lights. So that it syncs them all and gets them out of Main Street, and we have to approve the bid so we can move forward with getting that done and getting it off Main Street, which is also, we want that off so when we mill and pave down the road, we're not having to deal with that. And this works better for flow of traffic. So would I have a motion made and seconded? Do we have? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Holly?
All right. Any further discussion on that?
Nope.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It carries. Unfinished business, we have nothing on Southbury ambulance. We just want to put that, keep it on here. I do know there's some movement on that. You have the note from Mr. Michaels and the Chair of the Board of Finance, and we will probably have more at the next meeting. Police Services Study Committee report. Here tonight, we have the, from a Police Services Study report to be given to the Board of Selectmen. I believe you have a, did we just lose something? Okay. Okay. We're all good. Do we have the PowerPoint? Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly is, I guess you're the head of this. You look nice today.
Good evening. I sort of feel like I'm talking to the committee, but I realize we're being taped. Holly, this may be new to you and Mr. Deal on the phone, so you have the clicker?
I don't have a, is this
Or-
click?
Well,
That'll work.
That'll change the
That's it.
slides. Right-hand arrow? So,
It is on.
good. This is I'm representing a committee that was formed, I think it was commissioned in December, but the committee was formed in January. The members of that committee included Jason and Justin, John Michaels, Dan Colton, myself, John Norris, and kind of on an adjunct basis, Chris Grillo, sergeant in our police department, and Colin McAllister, who's the police chief in Naugatuck and a former officer here in Southbury. Our charge was to establish factual differences between the current resident trooper leadership of our police department, on the one hand, and perhaps moving to a municipal police organization that would be led by a chief reporting in through our town government. A written report, I think, was sent to the Board of Selectmen yesterday afternoon. This is meant as a presentation to reflect that written presentation. Methodology. We did an independent audit of our facilities and the equipment against standards and needs. We hired an architect who has done something close to 100 police headquarters designs in the states of Massachusetts and Connecticut. And probably the most knowledgeable person in the state of Connecticut. He spent the better part of a day with us, walking through the police headquarters and giving us feedback. He gave us a written report, which is part of the written report that you all received. helping us understand what improvements might be required in making the change. We interviewed a number of people with knowledge and experience in policing, both resident trooper towns and municipal, and including 4 towns that have recently made the transition from resident trooper leadership to municipal leadership. We talked to the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association, which is a very active association and a forum for sharing of information amongst police chiefs and best practices. We talked to the chief executives and police chiefs of the 4 like towns that did recently switch. That includes Montville, Ledyard, East Lyme, and Reading. We had planned to interview Mansfield, which is a town that has chosen not to switch, comparable size. But we're having difficulty setting up a meeting with them, and based on paper analysis, the fact that Mansfield includes stores, and the stores police, the University of Connecticut Police Department dwarfs the size of the municipal police department, we felt any conversations probably weren't terribly relevant to our analysis. We also did financial analysis, looking at the costs and trajectory of costs of those 4 like towns, what's happened since before and since they made the decision, and also other towns that are comparable, perhaps made the transition years ago or have been municipal departments for some time, just to understand indexed costs of policing and the trajectory of those costs to help us think through what the cost trajectory might be for Southbury if we made this switch. Our output is a combination of quantitative output and qualitative. The quantitative includes looking at investment in facilities, changes in operating costs, and any one-time costs. For other towns, looking at the costs before and after transition, and because headcount is such a driver of costs, looking at the headcounts in those towns. The qualitative output, things that don't lend themselves to a detailed financial analysis. Why towns chose to transition. Impact on the quality of policing. Subjective evaluation of overhead, duplicative efforts, and an understanding of what happened, current situation in department morale and turnover and retention, and what that would look like afterwards. I'm going to walk us through the findings through eight charts that are the next 8 slides, and these are each of the topics: facilities, policies and procedures, specialty skills and resources, leadership, staffing development and retention, what a transition would look like and the costs of that transition, a summary of operating costs and one-time investments that are required, and touch a little bit on police and community culture as the last slide. Let me also say, if you've got any questions along the way, please feel free to interrupt. I'll try to pause at the end of each slide just to see if there are any questions. Facilities and equipment of the Southbury Police Department are fully adequate for the needs of our police department today. Well suited for either option. Everything is located within the building, and we perform a lot of functions that other towns under the resident trooper program don't perform within our current department. Security and monitoring are appropriate, flows are appropriate, supporting equipment and systems are also well-suited to either option. That includes communications, dispatch, and increasingly important software for archiving, and to help us with freedom of information requests and evidence retention. And there is room for growth if and as needed. We didn't have a growth trajectory, and so we didn't test, kind of how much bigger could we become, but I think the general consensus was the department could probably grow 20%, 25% within the existing facility without any additional investment. Growth would have some investment in terms of vehicles and radios and that kind of thing, but not in terms of the physical plant. I will just add, the architect did make some suggestions for changes in the facility, but they have nothing to do with our choice of leadership of the department. They're rather driven by changes in best practices of policing and the facilities supporting policing that have evolved over the last 10 years. And those are being considered and implemented independently of this work. Questions? Our policies and procedures are rigorous, but would need some minor updates. Our current procedures and policies are based on the state police manual. It's up to date. It is compliant with the Police Accountability Act. Our dispatch is autonomous and really, I think, a model for towns. That was certainly the view of Chief McAllister and the architect after reviewing it. A key piece being it integrates all public safety in one dispatch function. There would be updates based on procedural changes. We have new leadership, new authorities. Our expectation is, however, that would be done by the department staff during the transition. Yeah, there'd be some overhead, some time applied, but there's no real incremental cost of doing that. Any questions? I'll move on. We rely on specialty skills and resources of the state police today. Most of those resources would continue, those skills and resources would continue to be available and are available to any municipal police department. Southbury has functions that most other resident trooper towns do not have. I mean, understand that some resident trooper towns don't even have a municipal officer. They're so small, and troopers are providing all police services. We've got a 25-person department today, and it's pretty autonomous under the resident trooper leadership. I talked about dispatch. We handle all of our own evidence. We handle all of our own, we have file retention, including video, for all required filing and notes that are accumulated. It's actually redundant with what we have to send to the state police. They maintain files as well, but they're duplicate files, so we have direct access to those files. State police functions like major crimes, SWAT, narcotics, K-9, bomb squad, accident reconstruction would continue to be available to the town as they're available to any municipality. And in particular with 84, we rely on the state police for a lot of support. And 84 would continue to be their responsibility. Mutual aid agreements with other towns are very common in policing in Connecticut, and would probably be used to supplant some functions that the state police wouldn't continue to provide. Incarceration. We have the ability to incarcerate, but that mandates an overhead cost that in many situations might not be warranted. Sharing with other towns, whether in our cell facility or their cell facility, would help mitigate the overhead costs of 24/7 supervision of a jail or a cell area. Because the state police provides those special functions, specialized functions, most of our officers do not get involved in canine, major crimes, et cetera. Even though those are interest areas and potential development areas, skill development areas for many of our officers. A mutual aid agreement with other towns gives us a reason for encouraging and providing development for officers so they can participate with other towns in delivering those services. And is something that is of great interest, I think, to all municipal officers, and in particular Southbury officers today. They can get that training, but they really don't have an opportunity to use it today under our current organization. The one function that the state provides that, the two things that the state provides that we would need to think about carefully are incarceration and vehicle impound. We don't have an impound facility. That's normally done down at the troop. If you drive by, Middlebury has a little fenced-in area for impound. We could develop it internally. We haven't put together a cost estimate. I think economically it would probably make sense to make that part of the mutual aid. Similarly with incarceration. Today, we will move people to males to North Haven or New Haven? I don't remember. New Haven, let's say. Women would go to Niantic. It's not a frequent occurrence. It's perhaps 10 times a year. We would be responsible for housing people until bond hearings, court appearances, which could be a couple 3-day duration. Our group, I think, felt that looking at mutual aid would be a good solution to that, so we didn't have the overhead of managing the cell area. The incremental annual costs of the sourcing functions, however, because it's not terribly frequent, is about $20,000 a year, estimated cost. Obviously, the change in leadership would change the staffing and command structure. Elimination of the resident trooper would save us $20,000, but we'd be hiring a chief, and that's kind of a wash.
Is it 200K?
Yeah, I think it's 200 and,
Elimination of our.
what do we pay, our annual cost for the resident trooper is, as I remember, 205,000, something like that?
I think so. It's in the chart. I
Yeah.
don't remember. Okay.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I think it's in that, it's in that category. We would be adding a chief, incurring the salary and benefits and a vehicle. The net of that, including some membership and dues, things that normally come belonging to the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association, is less than $10,000 a year. We would add a captain or lieutenant non-union leadership position under the chief. And it was the committee's view, and I think supported by Colin and Chris, that would likely be a shift of one of our current sergeant roles into the senior leadership role. So that there would be some wage impact, but really not a headcount impact of that change. There are also, we spent time talking with the chief executives and the police chiefs about reporting models for that chief. There are lots of choices that would be available to the Board of Selectmen and the town in terms of how to organize the reporting relationship. They really have no dollar impact on the analysis. Clearly, though, those organization choices and the hiring process, who will be the chief, who would be the lieutenant, requires some careful deliberation, careful thought. In terms of a difference between the two choices, the current resident trooper versus a municipal department, this is probably the key chart that I'm going to share with you tonight. It's our belief, and I think the belief of the towns that have made this shift, that and Chris and Colin, that being a municipal department has significant advantages in employee morale, skill development, retention, turnover of the department, and community relations. Turnover is a significant and growing issue across basically all police jurisdictions right now for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to try to recount. A municipal department would improve many aspects of that. 2 additional promotion layers that are not available within the resident trooper structure mean that our officers have a career progression beyond sergeant. Today, you reach sergeant, you'd like more responsibilities, you're going to leave the town of Southbury because you can't be promoted into the state police. Just doesn't happen. Also, the skill development that I talked about a couple slides back, providing a use for the acquired skills for officers, K-9, if that's of someone's interest, narcotics, other specialty areas, gives them some enrichment, expansion of skills, and the opportunity to use those skills not just within Southbury, but as part of a mutual aid agreement with other towns, to be an expert helping out other towns. A municipal department also has the opportunity of tighter integration with the community, more infrequent direct leadership interaction. Today, Jeff is kind of the chief, is one voice. We'd have 2 more people in addition to the officers who could play a role in the community, in listening and responding. More direct response to needs, and leadership, personality, tenure is all within our control. Today, we have no control over the resident trooper, when he comes, when he goes, and who that person is. I might just add, anecdotally, we have enjoyed decades of resident trooper leadership with senior, seasoned resident troopers. That seems to be changing. The leadership today has a significantly narrower tenure, breadth of experience than our own sergeants in terms of leadership of policing. A couple, 3-4 years out of the academy, I think. And because there's been such huge turnover in the state police ranks, we don't see that changing anytime soon. So this is an opportunity to make sure we have the seasoned breadth and depth of leadership required of, of our department. There's a few non-recurring costs. Overlap between the resident trooper and a new chief has been strongly suggested by the other towns, 1 to 3 months. So we'd be paying the resident trooper and we'd be paying a chief. That could be $15,000 to $40,000, depending upon whether it's a month or 3 months. That choice would be up to the Board of Selectmen. There is overhead cost associated with updating the policies and procedures that I talked about earlier, which is time and effort, but there's really no additional cost. An impound lot could cost us something, but we're suggesting we could contract that, which would be a very small incremental cost with one of the towing companies who have secure lots, or work on a mutual aid basis with another town for that service. Because we have the overhead, the support structure in place, we don't rely on the state police. There's really no additional cost associated with building a structure to support the police department. So our current autonomy really limits the amount of effort, non-recurring effort required in making a transition. Questions? So, as a summary, it's our view that the shift to a municipal structure would have a minor impact on the budget. Less than $50,000 of non-recurring cost and less than $40,000 of recurring every year kind of costs. And I've got them kind of listed here. $40,000 against a $3.5 million total all-in budget is pretty small. Thinking about it, if having a municipal department just eliminated one departure, officer departure a year, and therefore the recruiting cost and the training costs associated with a new hire, it would more than offset the costs that we've identified. We didn't quantify that because I don't know, none of us know what the turnover rate is likely to be, but we really do believe there'll be a meaningful reduction in turnover if we were a municipal department. Last slide. I mean, it's clear that the resident trooper program has provided excellent leadership of our department for decades, and we have good, sound policing here in Southbury. I can't say that the policing, the getting the job done is going to be dramatically different. There's not, if there isn't a lot of room to improve, then how much improvement could we suggest was available? Either option is going to provide quality, excellent law enforcement in Southbury. But, so the real question is really more a softer cultural question. What kind of culture do we want, or how do we want to integrate the police department, or manage the police department, or lead that department moving forward? The resident trooper, a little bit more independent, a little less effort maybe on our part. Standards, best practice, we don't have to stay on top of things. The state of Connecticut helps, provide that leadership. But in terms of community engagement, community relations, tenure and familiarity of a corps that maybe doesn't turn over as much, skills and autonomy, a municipal department probably improves the relationship between the police department, or the opportunity for strong community relations over time, and as a step function improvement. So I'd encourage you, as you think about which direction you want to go, to carefully kind of talk about how this might impact the culture of Southbury and the culture of policing within the Southbury community.
Are there any questions of
That's it.
Mr. Kelly for the presentation?
This is an easy. Everybody left. Two of the committee are part of the audience, so, and Jeff spent a little time with us.
I think I spent every meeting except
The last
frankly
one?
was not well enough to be at the last meeting. I
I'm
apologize.
sorry to hear that.
I would, Betsy, would like to have this, it's part of the public record, but I'd like to, Gosha gets back, get it on our website, the report that was sent to us, and this PowerPoint for the public.
And can we distribute a hard copy or an electronic copy of the PowerPoint to the Board of Selectmen? I have not done that yet, but that'd be great.
It just came in today, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It just came in today.
So I don't have any questions, but,
Yeah.
and this is usually when I would thank the committee for its work, but that seems a little self-serving. So, but
You can report that we had a vote and we adjourned the committee.
well, yeah, that did happen. John Michaels is very efficient trying to end these things. But I do want to thank you, Jack, for your leadership in this and keeping things moving forward. Your presentation tonight, I mean, I think you took everything we discussed and went over and drafted and really put it together in a succinct format that people can understand. Like, it's going to be really important as this discussion proceeds over the coming months that, one, I think people are going to look back at this meeting and try and, understand what we're talking about and have summaries to look at and, understanding the issues presented and, what sort of decisions should be made. So I thank you for that. And I also wanted to just thank all the towns that helped us in this process. They were, the chiefs of police and mayors and first selectmen in the various towns were so giving of their time and their research and their documents. And it really assisted in coming up with this. And I just thought that was very helpful.
They offered follow-up
Right.
far beyond what we were requesting. They
Yeah,
were that
no,
generous.
They were great and would get back to us, and it was good. And the Police Chiefs Association and Chief McAllister in Naugatuck really gave of his time and had a unique insight that was helpful to us, and obviously our Sergeant Grillo along the way. So I thought it was a good group and put together. As time goes on, people are going to go through this. There's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be more vetting and whatnot. But I think I think it's a big step in the right direction of putting the information, accurate, factual information out to the public as we engage in this discussion. Personally, I'm thrilled that we're engaging in this discussion at this point. Our town is unique in the Resident State Trooper program. I think a lot of people who live in our town probably don't realize that we don't have an independent police force. We have a building that says police department on it. We have vehicles that say Southbury Police. We have badges, but we're not an independent police force. And we're the biggest town in the state that is still within that structure. So I think I think it's a good time to be having this discussion. I think it makes sense to have this discussion and to really use it as an opportunity to educate people on the different styles of policing, and try and get information out there in the weeks and months ahead. And I'm not sure what the first selectman's plan is as to how this discussion is gonna proceed from here. But personally, I hope that we sort of engage on a path from this moment forward, and scheduling some other meetings and targeting, putting a question out to the voters as to what type of policing model they'd like to see here in the town of Southbury. In our charter, some of the towns we worked with, it was easier that we talked to. In our town, we require a referendum vote if we're gonna hire a police chief and change our policing structure. So I think we should, personally, I'll be in favor of moving in that direction towards a referendum vote, but along the way, I think we need to do engage in a lot of public discussion and education and answer a lot of questions so people understand when they go to vote, exactly what they're voting for and what the impacts of that would be. So those are my thoughts, and thank you again for all of your work on this, Jack.
Let me add one thing. As you think about communication with the public, Jason and I were talking in the hallway, and you just mentioned it. You know, I don't think a lot of our citizens know that we don't have a chief-led police department, wouldn't even think about this as a topic. They don't know, they weren't here, or wouldn't remember that this went to referendum once before. That it's been considered several times, I think, over the years, and for a variety of reasons, we haven't made the change. So there might be a need to add a little context setting, which I didn't put in the presentation, we didn't put in the report, that for the audience that is kind of surprised that this is even a topic of conversation, because what do you mean we don't have a police chief?
I frankly think, I frankly think that part of that is because the officers we do have and have had in the past have been so good. I mean, everybody keeps talking about how great a community policing we have, that people didn't know, because and that has a lot to do with the ground, the officers that are working for us,
Yeah.
their attitude towards the public, and the public probably never understood that there's no chief to complain to, except for me.
Right.
But I think that's a tribute to our police department we currently have.
Yeah, and maybe when we were a 3 or 4 or 5 person department 50 years ago, people knew and understood the reason for it. As a 25-person police department, where we provide all the skills, most of the people are employees of the town. The context has been lost with size and success.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I have a
Good.
question. Have any officers expressed any concern or reluctance? And obviously, no names, but has there been have any officers been not on board with this?
We've had no input.
We haven't talked to the individual officers. The only current officer that's been involved in this project is Chris.
Mm-hmm.
So we've relied kind of on his viewpoint.
Yeah, I think he has a good
But
relationship.
and he has emphasized that not the lack of development, because development opportunities are there, but the inability to use some of the skills and competencies you might get in a career development certificate in whatever area makes the role a little hollow in terms of progression. We have motivated and eager officers. Not everybody wants to be chief, but I think they all want to improve their skills.
Yep.
And their capabilities. And this would allow a significant step up in that regard. I don't think he ever expressed reticence in terms of how this might detract from that, or some other aspect.
And Holly, frankly, when I interview the candidates when we hire new, have asked a number of them, is this an issue with you that we're either a resident trooper or, and what has been told to me, of course, we're trying to hire them and they want to say the right things. Most of them have said, well, they've all said no to their, but they're young. But again, using the skill sets, we have officers who are trained in accident reconstruction, we have officers that are trained in some other things, but executing those skill sets, when it really comes down to it right now, it's the state police that come in.
On our behalf. Whereas tomorrow they could do it for both Southbury and surrounding towns and use those skills.
It all sounds great. Obviously, I recognize the opportunity for development. I was just curious if anybody had expressed any concerns.
Not that we've heard, I don't think. On what, Justin, you?
No, I haven't heard any.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelly, thank you for all the work. I do want to say I sat in.
So we are officially disbanded?
I guess-
Actually, I did have a question.
Oh, wait, a minute.
John.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, if you don't mind, if, just brief, so what I was hoping or thinking that if there was a bit to do with, retention of officers and, to see some charts or data or compilation of, I mean, do we know that, and I've heard the word may, reduce the, turnover, but is there any, like, data from these, organizations that we chatted with, whether they were, police departments or resident troopers, of what their experiences are and if there's any hard data that would be presented?
I think, John, that's hard to quantify because there's no statistics. I don't believe there's any statistics put out when someone leaves that you can.
In the publicly available
Correct.
information. So
Correct.
the information we got was subjective. I mean, we could, if it's of interest, go back to those towns and ask for turnover data. We did not ask for quantitative data that we could summarize.
I would almost think that if that was one of our goals that we're trying to solve, that we would ask for that data.
Some of it is perspective, anticipating. We see increased turnover, across the country. It's been in the news in New York City this week because of changes down there. We could be the beneficiary of some of that as officers leave big cities and seek suburban.
We have been the beneficiary of turnover in other departments coming to Southbury that were already trained. So there's opportunities in our police department that these other officers, most of them from the city, are finding in the Southbury, in our department. But by the same token, there have been a few that have gone on to seek an opportunity that they wanted to make the move. Frankly, I think that some of them that may have left will possibly, and frankly, off the record, people have spoken to me off the record saying, maybe I wish I hadn't made the move.
The grass is always greener.
So I can't say that's the facts, but I think absolutely this is a consideration of the information given to us of the future of our police. And that's why I attended the meetings, because this is a pivotal point if we were to change. And if we weren't to change, it will also remain for a number of years. It's not like next year we're going to look at this again. It could be 5 or 10 years. So I don't think, John, there's any way, and no specific data on turnover difference between departments. And I'd almost venture to say it almost mirrors the other turnover in other departments as people move. It's easier to move around in police departments now than it ever was.
Or perhaps in, careers and jobs across all industries. I mean, as a former business leader, the new generation thinks about career progression very differently, I think, than our generation did.
Yep.
They're more mobile. Lifestyle is very important. I think progression, development is very important to them, more so maybe than prior generations, and that's adding up to more mobility. But broadly across industry, employer, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Employers are not as loyal to employees. The opportunity is to be a loyal employer.
John, you want to, John was also,
Yeah,
sorry, John, John Michaels would like to.
To John's question, in thinking about the conversations we had with the police chiefs and the mayors, they told us anecdotally that there was better retention. And the reason was we took away some of the reasons that people were leaving. People leave police departments for all sorts of reasons. A spouse, a family thing, all sorts of reasons. And by getting their department, making it their own, and having chances for advancement and regional participation in regional functions, police functions, they provided more opportunities and reasons for the officers to stay. So it seemed to me as much a removing reasons to leave and creating opportunities to stay, reasons to stay, as it was the data. And all these departments were small. And if you have one or two people in a 15-person department leave every year, well, that's a big number, but it's only one or two, and you really need to get into why did that person leave? So, John, we can certainly ask for the data, but I think the metrics, because the small departments and the nature of the benefits of being independent, I don't think support some metrics showing us that, yeah, this will absolutely improve retention. I'm convinced that every single one of the chiefs and mayors we saw said they found improved retention after they made this change, and or they were expecting improved retention because they solved some of the problems about why officers leave.
I just want to say that another thing that's interesting in policing, there's generally a pension involved. And when you get a pension to a certain point, I think a corporate, they would call it golden handcuffs. There could be a little animosity that you know, and that gets into how a police officer responds and acts and psychological, that I don't I'm locked into, I'm too far into my pension to really move, but I really would like to be part of something bigger than just this. So I'd really like to be part of a K-9, well, or whatever team it is, or accident reconstruction team. So I think that's part of what could be a benefit of retention, but also making an officer a good officer, that they are willing to, they still are engaged with what their police activity is, without animosity of, all right, I got to get to 20 and get out. But you know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot more to that, but I don't think the data would prove it out. I just think it would just be data, and people move from this city, from that city, for this, for multiple reasons. They don't keep, I don't think they keep actual statistics on checking the box so you could do the numbers. Anything else, John? Deal?
well, yeah, so just a second question, just based on, typically when you see a report like this and a decision to be made, there's, a give and take, or and whether there was, was there anybody, like, even Holly asked about, like, is there any negative or anybody have any issues with this? Like, anybody on the committee that put this together, or pros and cons, like, is there a negative side to this that somebody is voicing their opinion in the past, that hasn't been included in this document? Or are we just going to wait for public comment to source that?
No, I don't think there was any negative. There was nothing, certainly nothing negative, or we would have reported it, I think, as part of the analysis. We couldn't see drawbacks.
We did summarize potential advantages and disadvantages, and there's a chart attached to the report that does that.
Right.
That
So
looks
John, I
at
think
pros and cons of resident state trooper versus independent police force.
So I think we should review the report.
That gets into in more detail.
John Michaels?
To John's question, our process, if you look at, because we did modest minutes, but if you talk to any of the members, we searched out every possible objection prophylactically to get in front of it, to make sure that we had all the data that surrounded anything that might be a negative. We asked every single one of those chiefs, every single the mayors, well, what were the problems? And for ourselves, we uncovered, I'm trying to think, we uncovered, I can't think, there were 3 or 4 things, I'm getting old and I don't remember anymore, that were not a result of the numbers, but in listening to what these others said, oh, that's right, well, we got to look into prisoner transport. Oh, well, wait a minute, we're going to be responsible for prisoners because the state won't be responsible anymore. Oh, we're going to be responsible for impounding cars. That wasn't on our radar. So, John, we spent a lot of time looking for all the things that could be a negative, and then we vetted them. When it came to prisoner transport, we said, oh my God, what could that be? We had Officer Grillo go back over the last 3 years and accounted for every hour that our officers were involved in prisoner transport and every hour that the state was responsible with no cost to us. And we said, gee, if our cost, we had to absorb all those costs, it was going to cost us, I think, an average of $10,000 a year for police overtime to do the work that the police did when they took custody of a prisoner. So I think, John, that's an example of things that were problems that needed to be looked into. I don't think there's going to be very, very many issues that come up that haven't been vetted, because we were, I think, very thorough in looking for that stuff.
Anything else?
Perfect. And so, I will appreciate the work that was involved and done into it, and much appreciate the presentation here. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. So, I don't know if we have to add it to new business, but what I did kind of outline a time frame. And we know that November 7th is a day we would have to, that would be, if we were going to do a referendum, that would be a question on the ballot if we choose to put it on the ballot. So in order to have a question on the ballot, we're looking at 60 days prior to the election and 10 days prior, or 60 days prior, which is August 29th. I've got the numbers here. So what I'm looking at right now is to get out public information, number one, by posting this report and this PowerPoint. People can listen to this Board of Selectmen's meeting and the presentation, the questions asked here. That's one way they can get information. And we would encourage perhaps to get that information out there, that you can listen and learn about what this has been about. So delivery was due today, June 15th, and we made that. What I'm looking at is the week of June 19th or 26th to schedule a information hearing for the public. And then, looking at the week of July 10th for another informational public hearing. And we have a July 20th Board of Selectmen's meeting determining if any other information or hearings are needed or should be scheduled. And then present, if we should choose to do so, present the question for the ballot, present the question on the July 20th Board of Selectmen's meeting, the question for the ballot for approval, for the be on the ballot on July 20th, the Board of Selectmen's meeting. And I think it really depends on how big the informational meetings are, whether we have more. But I think the week of June 19th or 26th, if we wanted to schedule those tonight. Any thoughts? Well, everybody pulling their phones out. So the reason I said the week of the 19th, we don't have a meeting that week. So I think if we had an evening informational meeting, it's a little short to get the information for people to come out. The week of the 26th probably would give some time to get that information out on social media and in the, maybe get the information for people to come to. I would ask, 2 board members have sat on this. I think that would be important that the 2 Board of Selectmen who are part of this committee be here. So the week, I don't know how you feel about the week of the 19th or the week of the 26th. I'm looking for direction from the board.
Are we looking to drag Jack out again? Because then we might want his calendar as well.
I think it would be nice if somebody it could be available, but I think that we have 2 board members who have sat through this, and we have a pretty extensive report. I don't think we're looking, we were pretty clear by forming the group. One of the things I was adamant about, that there was no, there was no opinion of which way, what we should or shouldn't do, or may want to consider, but just the facts of what it's gonna take. My concern, right from the beginning, was the building, that, will the building be able to handle it? And secondly, if we got larger, could it still handle it? And I'm not saying that should sway anything, but we should make a plan if that was known, which helped me, that the facilities are pretty capable. So, I mean, the board here,
I'm flexible that week.
If you're looking at the week of June 26th, I'm available the 27th and 28th. I'm not available the 29th.
I am not available the 27th.
28th?
Which, I mean, frankly, this is a very capable board. I mean, if let me look at some.
Whether-
Yeah, I may be able to make the 27th. But I'm sure as an informational
How about the
meeting,
28th?
the 28th would be fine with me. We do have there is a Community Relations Task Force meeting at 7 PM, but I'm sure that we could move that. I think this is pretty important to get the information out. And if that works for everybody, I really, our lives are busy and things fill up and our dance card gets full, but I think this is important. We're on a timeline for the question if we choose to do so, so we can
28th
schedule.
works.
What's that?
28th works.
All right, so I would like, I will, I don't know if we need a vote, to schedule a police study informational meeting Wednesday, June 28th. Do you think it would be good, well, it's bright enough, at 7 PM?
I'd have to be remote, but I can probably be
Okay. And this will be informational, I think this will be informational for the public to hear, not so much, just so they can get the information, and like I said, I think it's more important that Justin and Jason be there, because you were, I mean, I was at the meetings too, yes, but you were officially at the meetings, that you gentlemen be there to give the information, possibly Jack, if you are on the 27th. So we will schedule and get that information out to the public. I will let the, John Deal will let the Community Relations Task Force know that we will be having that meeting instead of the task force at 7?
So is there, and I know you're talking about it now, and I'm just thinking about it, is there a reason we can't do it the next day on the 29th, on Thursday?
Availability of,
Just-
I'm not available.
yeah, Jason's not available.
Okay,
on
just
the
because
other day.
we've, just to respect the Community Relations Task Force, I think they have a guest speaker coming, and to be bumping them for police conversations, I
Can
don't
they-
know that that's,
They could probably use another room then?
well, you and I both sit on that, so it's gonna it's gonna pull the carpet out from them.
Yeah, it's, I mean, the problem is we're up against the timeline. If,
Was Tuesday off Tuesday? 27th?
I can do it.
well, there's no reason why an informational meeting can't be run by two capable selectmen. I will not be able to be here the 27th. You're
How do
not
we,
available.
what do we envision occurring at this meeting? I think there would be an opportunity for people to comment, right? So we're gonna send out information, we're gonna tell people that they could listen to Jack's presentation, give people links as to where they can get the report, right? I think it's probably more a public forum than an information session, right? Because if we're sending out the people can watch the presentation or whatnot, people can ask questions, maybe there could be a streamlined presentation that night, and then it's to get input from the public. Is that what we're
Yeah,
considering?
yes.
Because if it's just for public input, then, you know, a member of this body who can't be there can listen to it later to, you know, hear what the public had to say.
Yeah, we'll
It's
want
not,
it,
what's that?
we'll want the camera going.
Right. Yeah, no, we'll want it to be like a, you know, a selectman meeting, or, you know, even if we don't have a quorum, we can still have an informational session, and, you know, it can be recorded and people can listen to it, but it's an opportunity for people to come and speak. I do think, I mean, if the scheduling doesn't work, fine, but if the scheduling does work, I think it does sort of add to the, I don't want people to think someone not being here makes it like, you know, people aren't interested, or it's not that important of a topic. Like it is, it's just a matter of trying to find a date where, you know, the board can gather information, so.
So, I'm not quite sure what that meant.
Well, is it a 1 hour so presentation that it could be 6 o'clock on Wednesday, or?
I think it depends on how many people from the public come. You know, if 5 people show up and want to talk, then it could be done in
6
an hour.
o'clock is fine.
If
If I
100,
got-
if 100 people show up and have, I doubt that, but, you don't know.
I don't know how to judge it, so, you know, I know the other, the task force is having a speaker. Perhaps, I mean, we can, I think,
Well, why don't you guys offline, see if anything can be done scheduling-wise with that meeting, and if not, then we just do this on Tuesday.
but you can't make Tuesday.
No, I know, I'm good Tuesday.
You're good Tuesday.
No,
I
Thursday,
can't-
Thursday
I-
is my problem.
Okay, Tuesday, I mean, I don't want to say. Yeah.
Tuesday is okay with me.
Okay. Okay. And I just, mostly you're, because you are, you.
I don't think so.
That's fine. That's fine with me. All right, so we'll talk offline and we'll get it out and, to the public. I don't think we have to vote officially to do it. We can just get that done. Should we schedule also, we'll consider the week of July 10th at that point, whether we should have another, if there's, you know, you got the 4th of July weekend, but we'll gauge by the number of people here.
Jeff, could we also put a comment box on the page on the website?
I was thinking that.
Because I certainly do want to hear from folks. I just think from past experience, we're probably not going to hear a ton. But that might be an easy way. I mean, one of the problems that we all have, obviously, is in summer.
Oh, you got to turn your mic.
One of the issues we all have, obviously, including members of the public, is, you know, school's out for summer, people are doing stuff. So if we give them the opportunity to just send us a note, that may well be as effective as giving them a place and time to come, so.
All right, let me get with, certainly we'll do that. I'll talk to Gosha, or our IT department, and we will, either an email spot to come, so we can get the emails, in about, and we'll advertise that.
Yeah.
That comments will be taken via an email. I'm sure we could, I'm sure if
Read the
we had younger
report,
people,
then
there's,
comment.
there's special chat boxes and everything else that we're a little too old for that. But if we do an email, we maybe could create something, or I don't see why it can't just come to the selectmen's email. Just come to my email and I'll share those emails with the board.
Perfect.
I mean, it is public information, we could even put it out, when we're done, list of people who've made comments. And that way we'll have an email address, but that's okay, yeah, we could do that. Any issue with my email? So we'll take, for the record here, people listening, selectman@southbury-ct.gov. And if they have comments on the proposal or questions, I will get get them out, responses, or distribute it to whoever has to. How's that sound?
That works.
And then we'll hold in check the week of July 10th, should we need to have another informational meeting. I think we should have at least, or form at least two. I would like to see at least two. And then the July 20th, we will make a determination on whether it goes to referendum, what the question will be. All right?
Yep.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. I don't think we have any new business.
We do.
Appoint the tax
Oh.
collector.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, we're generally at home. Sorry for the, okay. I'm looking for a motion to resolve that the Southbury Board of Selectmen hereby appoints Azra Schultz of Sandy Hook as tax collector for the town of Southbury for a term to expire on January 15th, 2027. We have to do this in order to designate, I have a signature page here for the Board of Selectmen. John, if you could come in, stop in and sign it also. It's a technicality, so we can collect taxes. Do I have the motion?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion carries. Okay, we're done with the new business. We're down to Selectmen's report. I had a legislative meeting with CCM. It was a wrap-up and end of the legislative session on Tuesday. I attended the CCM Legislative Committee meeting at the Aria in Prospect. What a nice place. In addition to recapping the 2023 legislative session and looking ahead to the upcoming one in '24, I did have an opportunity to connect with other municipal and state leaders. New Southbury Radio Hour, I'd like to get that out. Our Economic Development Director, Kevin Bielmeyer, organized a live radio series on WATR 1320 AM, 97.7 FM, called the Southbury Radio Hour. Each week, the show will feature a different local business person who sponsors the segment. 2 shows have already taken place, and 2 more will be scheduled. On Wednesday, June 7th, I had the pleasure of joining local dentist and business owner Jack Zazzaro, Kevin, and radio DJ Tom Hill live on the air for the show's premiere episode. We had a lively conversation and had some fun while promoting our beautiful town and local businesses. Yesterday, the Southbury Radio Hour featured local restaurateur Vince Capoletti, owner of Lucas Local, Mission Salad, and Monty's Downtown. Please tune in to the 2 remaining shows on Wednesday, June 21st, with Stevie Sacco, owner of the Bevy Company, and June 28th with Michael Ferrara, owner of Southbury.com, and Terry Murphy, founder of HealingChickadee.com. Both shows will be aired live from noon to 1. Recording of the show will eventually be shared on the business tab of our town website. This morning, I attended the Rochambeau Middle School graduation. These young teens gave me great inspiration and hope. They have much promise and bright futures ahead of them. I'm sure I will have the same feeling when I attend the Pomperaug High School graduation this Saturday. The weather did cooperate today. I was like, wow, beautiful day. Please join me in congratulating the 2023 Rochambeau 8th grade and Pomperaug High School senior graduating class. I wish them continued success in their next endeavors. News in summer. Our pool opens this weekend. Frankly, it's been kind of cold. But
Yes.
we're, for us pool owners, they're open, but they're cold. So town pool will open. Concert on the Green starts on Monday, July 10th, and are scheduled for each Monday through July 31st. Remember, the family outdoor movie returns with a showing of Strange World on Tuesday, August 15th. There was also a new dock. I don't know if we have the picture. There was a new dock installed. New dock was installed at the town boat launch, just in time for boating season. We are working on the passes for Southbury residents, and it's kind of a nice little dock. Our youth summer camps continue to be popular. Most age groups have already sold out, and a detailed list of our summer activities are listed on our website. Summer's getting into full swing with graduations, and hopefully it'll warm up a little bit, and the pools will warm up and we'll be good. From there, we have reports from liaisons. Justin, you're up.
So Economic Development will meet next week, next Wednesday. IPOC will not meet for a couple more months. Strategic Plan did meet last week. If you track their minutes, you'll see that there's a little bit of confusion about how detailed, I guess we could say, their review of the strategic plan and what we've been able to accomplish, what that should look like. Some of the ideas were interviewing staff, which sounded like it could be time-consuming. So I think we need to give them a little more of an idea of what we're looking for. I thought it was more of a top-down look at, hey, here's some of the things that the strategic plan encouraged us to do, and, you know, check, check, check. I didn't know that it was to be
I
that,
agree, that's,
to that deep or time-consuming. Because, you know, we do have a bunch of people on this panel that come from strategic planning and corporations, which is, you know, I think a different animal. And I think they perhaps are looking at it a little, you know, a little too deeply.
I thought it was more the big picture approach that you mentioned. you know,
Right.
Sort of more summary of
Okay.
yeah,
highlights.
Yeah.
like, I know there was like recreation was part of the, whatever, and, okay, you know, we have new pickleball court, tennis courts have been, since the strategic plan was done, the tennis courts have all been redone, they're in top shape, basketball courts. You know, are we reaching towards a recreation with this new concept?
Yeah.
That, like, are we
Pool
doing
plans
it?
are in motion, yeah.
Have we moved in the direction of what the strategic plan was outlined that we should do? That's, I think,
And as
What I
another one, you know, affordable housing. We now have an affordable housing plan. We have a subcommittee on planning that looks at it. We have some private interest groups. We have a couple developments that have gone up. To me, that's the sort of, you know, okay, yeah, this stuff has started to happen. We're making progress.
and even public safety.
But I don't know who you would interview about that.
But it has, I mean, even public safety, I mean, I think at the time, we had 17 officers, well,
Yeah.
we're up for a number of officers, and we're looking into organizing, so that's part of the strategic plan.
Yeah.
So has the legislative body of this town, past boards, and members, and us, and I think there's 3 of us who've been through that, is it moving in that direction? I think the people, the Strategic Planning Commission should be able to tell us, this is what was accomplished, this is what was looked at, this was what accomplished. I don't expect that we've accomplished everything in the strategic plan, because that's a little bit unreal.
Yeah, no, that's not.
But
the
I think
intention.
if we can show that there's a number of things, and us as board members can say, okay, now we know where we're at, we've met these goals. Now we can, in our head, we can sit here and say, what, because some things have changed, and we have to look at that and say, what else are we looking for in that strategic plan, and what could we do to, and then give a direction to the strategic planning committee about what we think we need to work on next. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I understood it, and I thought it was also gonna be helpful to the, because I think the commission over a period of time has been asking for, you know, things to do, or some input or whatever, and that'll sort of inform what
Yeah.
we
what's
decide
next?
is, oh, okay, well, we don't need to prioritize these things anymore, let's go prioritize these things. And they did something similar a couple of years ago, where they, you know, sort of high-level review, not like an in-depth, you know,
Yep. I'll pass that along.
interviewing everyone in town hall.
I'll pass that along to them. Pool Oversight Committee hasn't met yet. Are we supposed to get the specs back at the end of the month? Is that?
They're working on that, the engineers are working on that, they've been doing more test borings. I'm hoping to have that, when the Silver Petroselli is gonna deliver us that.
Okay. That's it for
Yes.
me.
Jason?
Library board met last night. The Friends reported that they hit a new record with their book sale this year, so that continues to be a very successful operation, which then, of course, helps with funding of various programming at the library. One of the things they showed off at the beginning of the meeting is the Friends funded a whole new audio system for the Kingsley Room, where they have a lot of events and movies and things of that nature, so that they showed us various clips and scene from Top Gun, and, you know, showing off the new audio, so it looks like it's, you know, it's pretty nice. I know a couple years ago when they did or maybe last year when they did the new video, they had like a movie night, so they started some talk, oh, maybe we should have another movie night where we invite people and show that off. they talked about some of, they recently did an update in their strategic plan, so they actually started talking about some of the things that they're implementing there. And then the other big part of the meeting was saying goodbye to longtime board member Ralph Camaso and longtime treasurer. They presented him with a citation, thanked him for his service, and they elected a new treasurer as Hugh Tansey, who we appointed to the board at our last meeting. LEPC, EMS committee haven't met, and I think we've heard enough about the police study committee tonight, so.
John Deal, are you out there? You still hanging in with us?
Yep.
Thank you.
So Parks and Recreation, I had a couple of comments on their business work, which was, one is Positive Coaching Alliance program that will help train their coaches. Part of the title there is Positive Coaching. So that's a program we're working on. We talked a little bit about what you mentioned earlier, is that their Southbury Town Pool and their programs are pretty well filled up, and there's wait lists that they are trying to work in to get people participating as possible. So they're pretty busy. What comment they actually to the board? They've been taking a look at duties and bylaws of the Parks and Recreation Commission. They felt a little, I'll say slighted, I guess, is that we developed the pool project oversight committee. And we didn't include the Parks and Rec Commission that is actually responsible for and the facilities, pools, buildings, and the like. So they're looking for a way to get more involved with when things happen in a park, such as a piece of the park gets removed. In that case, it was a small bench. We talk about community house and the ball that's there. How that they're included in that and processes. And their first experience is asking to get a representative on the pool project oversight.
Anything else?
And that would cut it. And I don't know, I guess, so I, Charlie, to forward you a name of who we thought, may be on that, and then communicate with you to get that on our agenda, just to make that communication a little more solid.
Okay. Selectman Kuhn Greg is not here. Holly?
Yep, so Region 15 did meet last week, or actually earlier this week on June 12th. It was their last regular meeting of the school year. A lot of discussion went into just policy updates, which are all outlined. You're welcome to check it out on the Region 15 website. Also, there was recognition of the retirees from the district this year. And they said their next regular meeting will not be until September 11th, as we get back into full swing for the 2023-2024 school year. And the region also went into executive session for some contract negotiations. So they're largely adjourned for the summer.
Okay. I think that's a wrap. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We're adjourned.
We all have to sign this?
Yeah. Here, let me do this. It's multiple pages for some reason.